Hey guys, this is Camfrey15 back at it with another video for you guys, and I'm back with another fairy tale arc reviews for you guys. And yes, we are finally here. Finally, we are here. And we are here to talk about the best arc in fairy tale, and that is the Tartaros arc. Now, the thing about fairy tale is this. I feel like you can have your own personal favorite arc of fairy tale, but at the end of the day, objectively as a fairy tale fan, or even a hater, if you are a hater, you always have to say that the Tartaros arc objectively is the best arc in fairy tale. I think the Tartaros arc is the best writing Mashima has done in the series for this, obviously this series. And he just found ways to rip your heart out in this arc, have cool moments, and just some things that just hit you so damn emotionally. And this arc has it all collectively together into one. I really do love this arc, and man, rewatching this arc was a blast. Now, again, this is only part one, and I only go up to the Aquarius sacrifice scene. But anyways, let's get on with the review. So the Tartaros arc covers manga chapters 356 to 417. But for the specific video here, the chapters for the manga I'm going to be talking about is manga chapters 356 to 384. Now, the anime episodes covers 234 to 265, but for this respective video, I'm covering episodes 234 to 248. Again, the last chapter in the last episode covers the chapter and the episode where Aquarius tells Lucy to sacrifice herself, and Lucy does that, and everything. Now, hold on a quick second, and I'll get right back to you guys real soon. Okay, back. But yes, this is what we're going to be. Those literally going from the start of this arc to obviously the Aquarius sacrifice, I felt like was a good moment by the time you get to the Aquarius sacrifice. It was a good moment to say, okay, that could be a good halfway stopping point for this two-part finale, or for this two-part arc, because I want to save the rest of the stuff in the later half of the arc, because mostly those are the kind of the cleanup battles and even more crazy stuff that we get there. But the first half of this arc has a lot of crazy stuff happening in this arc alone. Literally, and when I mean literally, you know, we had the Magic Council start up in this arc, getting blown up. First watch, I'm like, what the hell is going on? So essentially, in this whole scene, the Magic Council were talking about a plan to what to do with the Tartaros Guild, and essentially they kind of end up saying like, well, it seems like we're probably going to go to war with them. And then essentially we see this Magic Council fellow come in and say, you know, hey, apparently we have intruders and stuff like that. And then the Magic Council literally blows up. Dornbolt is the only member from the Magic Council that actually is alive in this whole explosion. Everybody on the council seat, and including Lahar. Yes, Lahar, who we've seen since the Arashion 6 arc, who's kind of been a staple of the series in terms of the Magic Council, is dead himself. Dornbolt is the only one alive. Now, there's this one other, you know, Magic Council member who was on the seat, who are on the seats, the Magic Council seats, was still alive, but Jackal essentially blows his head up. So yeah, we find out one of the person who is behind the destruction of the Magic Council is one of the 9 demon gates of Tartaros, which is Jackal. Now, we cut over to what Fairy Tail's thinking about, and essentially Levy actually looks from obviously the last arc with the Sun Village arc. Not seeing the others ask Levy if she knows anything about E&D. And essentially, what Levy says is the fact that, well, E&D essentially is just a super demon. He's a highly advanced super demon. which again, that's the one thing about the Tartaros arc that also is a thing that builds on by the time you get to the end of the arc. I'll keep that secret for the next video. But obviously this arc builds up just demons of the Book of Zareth, Zareth and E&D and stuff like that. Because we're getting to like literally late stage fairy tale here. Now, this is when we see Jet and Troy come in. They eventually tell the entire guild of the Magic Council, all of them are dead. And speaking of the Magic Council, we cut back. Dornbolt actually goes to the prison cells and he talks to Cobra. And he tells Cobra, listen, you're telling me everything you know about the Tartaros Guild. Everything you know. And stuff like that. Now, Cobra's like, okay. Listen, if you let us free, if you let me and the Sace free, I'll tell you everything you need to know about frickin' Tartaros. And obviously Dornbolt's like, okay, fine, that's a fair deal. Now, Cobra says that the Tartaros Guild consists of the 9 demon gates from the Book of Zareth, and E&D is their master, even though in a weird way in this arc, E&D is supposed to be their entire master of the Tartaros Guild. You have the guy obviously later revealed, Margear. Like, he comes across like he's their master. It's weird. It's confusing, to say the least. I just see Margear as, like, I guess you can say the freaking master, the interim master for E&D. Technically, if you know who E&D is, I'm going to keep it to myself till that's revealed. But, yeah, I always thought, like, that's freaking weird. So, yeah, anyways. And then that's when we get introduced to the 9 demon gates of Tartaros. So the 9 demon gates of Tartaros are Kyoka, who likes to punish people, even worse than Virgo does. She likes to not punish, torture people. Silver, Jackal, Fromolf, Torfuzar, Doji Giri, Azel, Celia, Keys, and Tempester. Speaking of Tempester, we see the Thunder Legion actually, with Mr. Yajima in his restaurant doing a job for him, and they end up getting attacked by Tempester. And he's literally on the brink about to kill Mr. Yajima. Now, Luxus comes in to save him. Now, Luxus in his fight against Tempester easily kind of just defeats Tempester with utter ease. But when Tempester dies, Tempester essentially releases this gas or these particles called Bane particles, and essentially it's like poison to wizards, essentially. And the thing is, in order to save his obviously Mr. Yajima and his friends, Luxus sucks in most of the Bane particles in the area, and everything. But when they're taken back to Fairy Tail, it is thanks to poor Yusuka. She essentially says, well, they're in bad condition and they're on the brink of death, essentially. So yeah. Now, we find out about the thing about Tartaros is the fact that even though it's also explained later on in this arc, mostly to give background to the Fairy Tail characters, is the fact that with Tartaros, the reason why their guild is so tough to take down is because every time you kill a demon gate, they have this area in their guild hall where they can just regenerate and essentially come back to life, which essentially makes them immortal. And yeah, so Kyoga actually does say the whole thing and shows off the fact that, well, guess what? Minerva is going to be her new servant. As we all remember from the Sun Village arc, Kyoka was captured by Minerva. Now, cutting back to obviously what's going on, after essentially the Thunder Legion are A-okay and they just need, some blood from Tempester to be able to heal them again and everything. Free does ask, like, is everybody safe? And Makarov kind of tells a little white lie of saying, well, yeah, with your guys' work, you guys saved everybody. But in reality, since there were still lingering Bane particles, it killed over 100 people. So yeah, it's crazy, but yeah. Anyways, this is when we have Makarov have a meeting with the entire Fairy Tail Guild, and essentially he says that Fairy Tail is going to go to war with Tartaros, and essentially the whole thing is the fact that they found that obviously they know that because of what Tempester did going after Mr. Yajima, they're not only going after people from the current council, they're also going from people from the old regime, the old Magic Council, just from what they were doing, Mr. Yajima. So essentially, the new plan is to split Fairy Tail members up to go to past council members' houses and protect them from Tartaros. Now, Natsu, Lucy, and Wendy, they eventually go guard the old Magic Council member, Michello, who doesn't really like the fact that Fairy Tail is trying to protect him. And he's like, why don't you guys get the hell out of my house? I don't need you guys to protect me. And stuff like that. He has a granddaughter named Michelle, and essentially she kind of tells him, listen, they're here to protect us. Listen, you should be grateful. And that's when Michelle he realizes, like, it's a good question, like, why the hell is freaking Tartaros coming after us and stuff like that? That's when he, is thinking, he's like, oh shit, no. And that's when he's saying that they could be after something called Face, and he's wondering how the hell would they know about that. Also, if you kind of want to know how Fairy Tail was able to find the Magic Council members, well, apparently Loki back in early Fairy Tail days when he was ill, even though he's still a part of the guild, but when he was in his form, when he stayed in Earthland in Fiore for the long time he did in Magnolia. What is it? He, I guess you can say, had a interaction, or I guess you could say a special night with Michello's granddaughter, Michella, and essentially he remembered, thanks to her, she remembered most of the Magic Council locations and stuff like that. So yeah. Now, essentially what happens is they get attacked, and it's Jackal. Now, Natsu ends up fighting Jackal at first and starts beating him up pretty good and gives him some pretty good shots. But then Natsu just out of nowhere gets blown up and everything. And we find out that's thanks to his curse power. And we find out that curses are different from magic, even though they're somewhat like magic, but the curses operate differently from magic, which, when you're going up against when you're going up against the 9 demon gates, these curses have an effect on you that literally could all kill you or make you feel some sort of pain. Essentially, it's like a more grandstand, added effect with magic included in it. So he gets blown up and he kind of gets taken out. Now, when Lucy and Wendy tries to fight back, but they're too weak for Jackal. Now, when most people are about to blow up, Natsu comes back in, he freaking reawakens, and then at the same time, he then realizes the fact when the explosion is about to go off, he can actually eat the explosion because it gives off fire, essentially. So essentially, he's got the counteractive properties to Jackal. So because of this, Jackal eventually transforms into a legit Jackal. Like, that's his transformation. And the thing is, Natsu ends up defeating him. But Jackal, again, just like Tempester, has an effect, an after effect after it looks like he's going to die. His whole thing is he's going to blow up the entire village that they were in and take him with him. The only thing is he'll be able to come back alive. But Happy makes a quick decision, flies him up to the air, and literally saves everybody. Now, it was a moment where you could have said, well, Happy could have died. Don't know how he survived the explosion. Who knows? Listen, okay, it's kind of a little nitpick, but hey, it's far from that, but whatever. So Jackal is done. Now, Gray, Juvia, Gajil, and Levy didn't make it in time to save the council members that they were sent to go after, as well as the same with Elfman and Lizana. But the problem with Elfman and Lizana is they are confronted by Celia. Now, she reawakens the Magic Council member from the dead to destroy their communication lacrima. So what Celia does when she shows herself is she forces Elfman to essentially try to choke out and kill Lizana. And essentially it baits Elfman into giving into whatever Celia says. So he is able to let go of Lizana and save her, and she just takes her away. And stuff like that. Now, this is when we kind of get the background information on the true plans of Tartaros. And essentially, when Lucy confronts Makarov on the communication lacrima, she tells Makarov that, well, we saved council member Michello. And essentially, Michello goes on to speak on the fact of what Tartaros is after, and he has a look of fear in his eyes like he never seen before. And he says that the thing that Tartaros is after is the Face Project. And essentially, Face says it's the most dangerous weapon the council has ever had, ever made, yada, yada, yada. Essentially, we find out in this scene from him that Face is a weapon that essentially eliminates any known magic in the continent of Fiore. Hell, I think they said even in the entire continent that they're on, because if you look at the map of Earthland, where Fiore is, it's just a little country. They're talking about the entire continent of that part in Earthland. And I'm like in Earthland and everything, which is freaking insane. One, why the hell did the Magic Council make a weapon like this? Just like, oh, let's make a weapon where we're just gonna get rid of every known magic power to on this continent. Now, that would make it to where they would literally turn into an Edalus situation. And two, the only way I could see it is they go up against a magic opponent so strong that they have to use Face, and like we have to get rid of all the magic, so then we can be able to weaken this threat down and we can stop him. Now, obviously Lucy and the others go on to tell the others, like, yeah, it's bad because their Tartaros members don't use magic. They use this thing called curses. And it's like Lily says, it's like, well, if we have our magic zapped away and taken away from us permanently, we stand no chance of beating the Tartaros Guild. So literally it's a race against time to find Face, stop it, so they don't lose any of their magic power. But it goes to show you, like, and it's funny because in this scene, Michelle says the Magic Council has made even more dangerous, dubious weapons, in the Magic Council. And we don't know what some of those are. So he makes a mention that Ethereon is one of the most dangerous ones, which Ethereon, like I've said in past ARC reviews, is literally just the equivalent of a nuclear bomb. They just fire at the designated location and essentially destroys anything in its vicinity. Here, this literally gets rid of every known magic. And it's kind of a weird thing to have, because you think this would have to be consulted with every guild in your country, hell, every guild in the entire continent as a whole, at the standpoint of, well, guess what? We have this weapon that can take out your magic, and we can use it whenever we feel like it. Which to the guilds, I guarantee you they'd be like, why? Unless we give your consent, that's fine, but no. But I feel like Face was more than likely a last resort type of policy. If most, guilds died out because of a very strong threat, then that's probably when the Magic Council would be like, okay, we need to unleash Face to stop this magic threat. Listen, it kind of goes to show you that, again, the Magic Council is shady as shit, and most of the members, even some of the old members, deserve to die. Because, listen, it's kind of weird, too, because it's funny enough, going back to the Grand Magic Games, it was funny because, Dornbolt told Hisui and Toma Fiore, like, hey, if this gets out, you're going to pay, so keep this under wraps. I'm talking about the Eclipse Gate. And it's like, it's funny how the Magic Council is quick to judge about the Kingdom of Fiore, having the Eclipse Gate and with its ties to the Book of Zareth and everything. But the Magic Council has a legit weapon that takes out every damn known magic in the continent. You have a freaking the equivalent of a nuclear bomb, and you have many other weapons that we don't even know about. And it's funny because by the time we get to Crawford, he probably was explaining all this shit to Tartaros. He's like, yeah, we got this weapon, this weapon, this weapon. Oh, we have this weapon that takes out magic. And obviously Tartaros like, that's the weapon we need. We don't care about anything else. So yeah, and the thing is too, with the fact that there's no Magic Council members, Tartaros can freely go after it and Face can be used and stuff like that. So yeah, so the thing is, Michelle's like, you're gonna have to find the chairman to do this, and that's what happens, and stuff like that. And Mary Jane and Earth are already there. Now they go visit former Magic Council Chairman Crawford, and that's when they ask him about Face themselves. He's like, I don't really know much about it, but hey, this can't get out. But eventually they get out attacked by Tartaros. And then when Natsu wakes up, he realizes something. And that's when he realizes Crawford is a double agent because he's like, it would make no sense if we, the guilds, didn't know the locations of the Magic Council members. Why would Tartaros know the locations of the Magic Council members except people at the Magic Council headquarters? They wouldn't know where any of the old Magic Council members, their old houses are at because we are told in this arc that essentially their locations, the old past Magic Council members' locations are essentially kept a underground secret and nobody knows where they are. Obviously for various reasons. So, criminals who get out and want to get revenge on the Magic Council can't find them. So in other words, they can't kill them. And now it's just like, it makes no sense because how would Tartaros know their location? That's when he realizes that Crawford is actually working with Tartaros because he told them everything that Tartaros needs to learn to achieve their goals and stuff like that. And that's when we see him get to the house with Happy, and they're already taken away. Essentially, Urza and Mary Jane drunk a tea that kind of put them to sleep after a while. It took them a while to kick in and stuff like that. Now, the thing is, he eventually Natsu eventually tracks their scent to the Tartaros Guild Hall. Now, Dorenbolt, after letting out the Seis, are confronted by Jalal, and Jalal and the Seis start fighting. Now, in Urza's case, we see her waking up to be confronted by Kyoka, who tells her that she has plans of making Mira Jane her slave, but she also wants Urza to tell her the location of where Jalal. Now, Urza denies anything, saying, I don't know where Jalal is, I don't know where he is, and nor would I tell you. And obviously, the reason behind it is because if Jalal dies, well, Face will finally be activated. Now, the thing is, since Urza's not talking, Kyoka's like, well, I guess I'll have to make you find some way to talk. So her curse essentially is activating a human's pain receptors to the max limit with her little fingernails to the point it's where humans feel a massive pain. And for this entire scene as a whole, you just have Urza getting tortured after tortured after tortured. And it's kind of hard to freaking watch. Like, literally. And also, again, I watched the dub for this. Credit to Colleen Klinkenbeard on her freaking screams acting as if she was legit in pain being tortured. She did a phenomenal job. They include, obviously, a freaking octopus-like creature, I guess, for technical, what reasons. But it's just all there for torture. And that's what Kyoka does. She more than likely tortures her enemy before she eventually kills them off and everything. And stuff like that. So speaking of Natsu, Natsu starts attacking Franmoth to try to save Urza and Mary Jane. But during this whole scuffle, Silver shows up and he ends up freezing Natsu with utter ease. And right before Natsu gets frozen, Natsu essentially says, you smell like gray, and then he gets frozen. Silver's like, you should have not mentioned that name to me, which hints, does Silver have some sort of connection to gray? Now, Happy manages to get away, and this is when we see, he's flying away, we see that Tartaros Guild is literally on the top of a flying cube. Now, Natsu gets sent to the cells. He ends up running into Lizana in the same cell, and honestly, I would call this probably like the last really key Lizana X Natsu moment, because there was one time where the ground's shaking. He literally falls, I'm guessing, into her boobs, and she's like, get out of here, you freaking perv. Which is weird because I guess you can say, I know Lizana likes Natsu that type of, used to like Natsu that type of way, so I don't understand why she would do that, but hey, girls can do what girls do. But I honestly took this part of it where it's like the last, like real close scene between the two. Because they never have those moments again. And that's why I say I feel like Lizana is kind of somewhat of a dropped character or a wasted character. But hey, Lizana is still pretty cool as is. And stuff like that. Now, Lizana goes on to tell Natsu, like, I don't know what happened to Elfman and stuff like that. Now, in the fight against the Seis, Jalal starts fighting back because at that point in time, he's getting dominated by the Seis members. And Zero awakens yet again and blows a hole through his chest. Now, Happy gets back to the guild, and he tells everybody what he found out about the Tartaros Guild and about what not to. He tells them about Crawford, where they're at, and stuff like that. Now, Elfman also gets back, but he's acting a little strange, and we find out that he's under the control of Celia, because Celia goes on to tell Kyoga, yeah, I got a pawn under my control that will destroy Fairy Tail and stuff like that. So what happens is we find out that Celia gave Elfman a lacrima that is actually a bomb. Now, Urza, again, like I said, continues to get tortured. Zero attacks Jalal, but Jalal isn't dead. And we find out that was all a Midnight, or Midnight created an illusion to trick everybody and think, oh, Jalal's dead, but really he fights through it. Now, Jalal uses powerful spells to take out the Sace. Now, the Sace all think Jalal will put them back in prison or even kill them, but Jalal says, listen, you guys just like me need to atone for your sins, so why don't you fight alongside me and join Crime Sorcier? Now, oh brother, speaking of Crawford, so listen, you ever have those moments where you have a character in an anime arc where they end up being like a traitor to the main heroes, and when they end up getting killed, they end up dying in probably the stupidest way they could have died, where they could have easily prevented that. So Crawford essentially is like, all right, I got a good idea, because this is when he eventually finds out, and he tells Franmuth right then and there. He's like, so I made a great discovery. So I was able to transfer the key to unlock or to activate Face. I transferred it from Jalal to me. So what we have to do is transfer it to somebody else and do that. And guess what? We get Face. But guess what? This man is so dumb stupid that he says that out loud. The Kyoga comes up, kills him, and he's like, oh, well, thank you for that, Crawford. You've been such a great help. Well, what comes around goes around. Now, in my personal opinion, I really feel like Tartaros would have killed Crawford regardless whether they activated Face or not, because let's be honest, Tartaros, they only needed Crawford to activate the Face project and everything. That's the only thing they needed him for. And I guarantee you after that, they would have just killed him regardless. And they were like, we don't need you anymore and stuff like that. We got what we wanted. Which again, like I said, what comes around goes around. Crawford died really stupid. I don't know why he would announce to the Tartaros members, yeah, I transferred the key from Jalal to me. In other words, transfer it to somebody else, then we just kill them. And the Tartaros members are obviously smart. They're like, why do that when we could just kill you right here, right now? You're right in our face. We'll just take care of you right now. Yeah, that's good. So really dumb on his part. Again, like I said, he deserved it. He betrayed his former comrades in the Magic Council just to be back in some position to be chairman of the Magic Council again, which I don't understand. If he was still alive, why not just be the chairman of the Magic Council again? Maybe because of the events of the Tower of Heaven arc. Maybe people just didn't trust that regime of the Magic Council. So that could have been the thing. So yeah, but whatever. Anyways, we see Face start to activate. Now we see in the underground, this pillar come up and literally has faces on them. And fun fact, funny enough, at this current point in this recording, in the Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest manga, Fairy Tail just got done taking out this thing called Alta Face, which Wendy may have mentions that it had ties or feels similar to ties with the Face project here. So I said it in my manga chapter reviews that it was great that they kind of brought that element back. So yeah, but as of this recording, and as of this time that this video was made, the chapter for Fairy Tail at that point in time was freaking that had ties to it. So I thought it was pretty cool and stuff like that. So yeah. Now, interesting thing that Franmuth says is that Tartaros can't activate Face remotely because Crawford was the only one who could do it. They have to go actually to the site where the Face thing is at and activate it manually now and stuff like that. Now, essentially, so obviously, Kyoga's like, damn, I guess I really shouldn't have did that. Now, we go to the underground part and we see this girl, like this bunny girl of Kyoga's I guess, force called Lummy, and she's the person who revived the Tartaros members. We see that Tempester has a new look. Jocko also is revived and has a somewhat new look as well. Also, we see that Minerva also looks different as well. Now, Lummy says, well, I'm going to change Mirror Jane because you're too hot, you're too sexy, and I don't like that. And speaking of Lummy, my God, she is probably one of the most annoying fairy tale characters I've ever seen, especially with that freaking One Piece, back-to-back cackling laugh. She's like, I can't do it right, but my God, she makes it so annoying. It's like, it's funny but annoying at the same time, and you want her ass to die. And that's why I find it funny when Jacko's like done with her shit and just blows off her fucking head. That's what I love. So, that's funny. But yeah, Lummy is like, I don't like cute girls or hot, attractive things. I'm going to turn you ugly. And I'm like, okay, fine. Just turn her ugly. Anyways, going back to Fairy Tale, thing is, we see that Levy says, well, Tartaros, from the calculations Happy gave me, the Tartaros Guild is directly above us. And before the bomb goes off, Kana manages to save Fairy Tale. Now, before it goes off, Kana gets up to the front level. She turns everybody into cards. Happy, Carlin, and Lily literally are giving the cards to fly to the Tartaros Guild. So that's what they do. And essentially, all the Tartaros members, see this. They bring in the Ixties with a gravity field. And essentially what happens is all the Fairy Tale members come out and they fight Tartaros members and stuff like that. Now, thing is, this is kind of when the tides turn for Fairy Tale a little bit in their favor. Now, Lummy trying to change. Mirror Jane tries to flow demon blood into Mirror Jane, but it actually reawakens her because thanks to her Satan soul, Mirror Jane is like, oh, demon blood? I love demon blood. So, yeah. Now, Kyoka actually goes back to go see Urza to use her as a hostage to have her comrades stop fighting. But Natsu and Lizana managed to escape because they use this heat sword and everything. And essentially, they capture Kyoka. Now, Kyoka says that they activated Face to return to Zareth. Now, and that's when she tells the Fairy Tale members, like, yeah, we are demons from the Book of Zareth and stuff like that. Now, obviously, Urza tells Lizana and Lizana and Natsu to go find Mirror Jane while she stays dealing with Kyoka. Now, on the way to find Mirror Jane, Natsu tells Lizana to go ahead, but Natsu ends up running into Zareth, who makes a crazy appearance here. And that's when he says that the Tartaros Guild Hall essentially is his library, and this is where all the books he's ever written reside here. Now, Zareth says that Tartaros is his creations, but he's not in control of what they're doing. It's because of Master E&D that is really truly behind this, why they're making Tartaros do what they're doing. Now, Zareth tells Natsu that he saw how Igneo failed to kill E&D. And then that's when, before he goes, he wonders who will reach him first, Natsu or E&D, which, again, like I said, E&D is the strongest demon in the Book of Zareth. Now, that was an interesting conversation. It was pretty cool to see and stuff like that, which, again, hints at the whole Natsu versus Zareth dynamic. Now, the other Fairy Tale members go to find the others after this big hole was made by Urza, as well as stop Face. Now, Urza continues to fight with Kyoka. Lizana and Mirror Jane find each other, and essentially that's when Mirror Jane starts her fight with Celia. Now, Lucy and Wendy, they find the command center to find where to stop Face, but there's a countdown to the activation already for Face, and the thing is they end up getting confronted by Keys and Franmal. Now, Wendy and Lucy try to escape, but Keys finds them again. Gray gets in the way of doing that and manages to tell him, go ahead and do that. Now, Franmal confronts them again, and we find that Franmal's curse is the fact that he can absorb people's magic power and use it for his own, power and stuff like that. Now, he tries to catch Wendy, who's trying to escape to go on to Face, but Natsu comes in the nick of time to save her with Natsu's donning probably one of my favorite Natsu designs in terms of the clothes he's wearing. This is probably like the first time Natsu's worn. This is the first and only time Natsu's worn, like, well, not the first and only. There's other moments, but this is like one of the few times Natsu's worn different like clothes, and it actually looks like a good fit. It's just like a jacket, and pants that match have the same design as the jackets, and it looks pretty badass. It's like one of my favorite Natsu outfits and stuff like that, and things like that. So we find out that Frommuth actually absorbed Ares and Tartaros' power and uses them against Natsu. But Natsu eventually ends up countering that, and that's when he reveals the fact that, I'm going to use my most powerful soul. And that is, we find out that Frommuth has the soul of Hades. Essentially, he says 7 years ago, when he was looking around for his heir, he found Hades' body and essentially absorbed it, and now this is the most powerful, obviously, soul. Now, Natsu goes lightning flame dragon mode, and he doesn't attack, but Frommuth absorbs his power. Gray's not doing any damage against Keys. Now, when Wendy and Carla end up finding the location of the cave where Face is in, before they go in, they feel the air just of ether nano illuminating from Face. Wendy then gets attacked by Azel, who's another demon gate. She ends up getting dominated, and she ends up trying to fight back as best she can, but she ends up getting beat. It gets to the point where she gets pinned down. Carla tries to fight back and save Wendy, but Azel freaking grabs Carla, and on his way to plan to eat Carla reminds Wendy, think of the air. So that's when, obviously, Wendy sucks in the air, and we get one of the most badass moments of the entire series, one of the badass moments for Wendy, and that was the fact of that Wendy in the scene in trying to save her friend Carla, transforms into her Dragon Force form, and she is able to fight back against Azel. So let me just talk about the scene real quick. This scene, man, was so good. The build-up to the scene was hype, and the transformation looked so badass. And I love the fact, especially the ending song, at this point in the arc, made it even sound even cooler and stuff like that. But can I just say this? Give props to Brittany Karbowski. The way she screamed before Carla was eaten, you need to hear that in the dub. She literally screams like a girl. Brittany Karbowski screams like a little girl, or a girl that is literally in some sort of terror attack, like they're about to get killed by somebody, and they're screaming like, but screams like a little girl. No voice crack or anything. And I love the build-up to the Dragon Force form, and I love what Carla says at the end of that representative episode, or even I believe in the chapter too, the fact how Carla says Wendy, when she first came across her at first, Wendy was very timid, shy, and wasn't much of a person with courage to fight. But now she's grown up and she's willing to get her hands dirty and she's willing to fight for her own purposes. And that's honest to God's true. We saw when Wendy was first introduced. And fun fact, at the time of this recording, my Ratio and Sace review, I'd already went to YouTube at this point in time. But when we first see Wendy, she's kind of a timid, shy, girl that's kind of scared and doesn't really like to fight. But as you see the arcs go on, you see her, start to have the courage. Eventually, at first, when she was first introduced, she didn't really do that. Eventually, in the Atlas arc, she managed to work together with Natsu and Gaujo to defeat King Faust. And had another team-up moment with Natsu, Lucy, Urza, and Gray to defeat Hades. And then, kind of the latter half of things after the time skip, the 7-year time skip, that's when she kind of started to have her individual battles, like the one against Shelia, going out to a draw. And in this fight, she ends up beating Azel. But to see the strength and the growth of Wendy from the very first moment she was introduced, you really go to see Wendy has grown as a character. She has got more confident, has more belief in herself to get to this point of strength where she's at. And I said this in my Fairy Tail 100 Request manga chapter reviews, and I will continue to say it. Wendy is literally stronger than what she looks like. And when she's going to be a full-fledged adult, she is probably going to be up there in tiers of strength with literally Natsu in terms of, you know, his not his in terms of Natsu's Fire Dragon King mode and stuff like that. Yes, I said it. She's going to be that strong. She's literally a character with crazy potential, and she can get abnormally strong. Like, and she's doing this feat of strength as a kid. Just think of it. Technically, if she if she didn't go to Tenra Island, she would have been an adult. She would have been just as old as Sting as Rogue, and she would have been crazy strong. But even as a kid, she's got unlimited potential. She is very strong for a kid her age. And at this point in the story, she's like only like 14 or 15 or something like that. And like she's legit super strong. Like she's strong. So yeah. Also, her Dragon Force form, out of all the Dragon Force forms we've seen, which is Natsu, Sting, and Rogue, hers looks visually different than the most. Now, Natsu, his Dragon Force form is just, you know, the scale bags under his eyes. Sting and Rogue has the scales on the side of their face to their arms and their body. On the side of their face, the side of their entire body. Wendy's Dragon Force form is literally like her going Super Saiyan. Her eye color changes and her hair color changes to a lightest, darkest magenta type of pink color. It looks really cool and it looks really badass. And I love it. This is probably my favorite Dragon Force form of all the Dragon Slayer members. The only Dragon Force we have never seen is Gajeel, to my knowledge. He's the only one that's never activated his Dragon Force like that, which it's shocking that we never got to see what his Dragon Force form looks like. Then again, maybe you can say his Dragon Force form looks like his Dragon Force form is when he just turns his entire body into iron, but I wouldn't consider that his Dragon Force form, but whatever. So yeah, but that's the thing there, which I think is pretty cool, and her form looks crazy. And Wendy in this fight literally kicks Azel's ass, and to the point she literally uses all the surrounding air/wind pressure around Azel to take him out and defeat him. And we see Azel actually transform, and Wendy still defeats him using everything and stuff like that. Now, because of how strong Wendy is, she managed to take out Azel and the face pillar. So the face pillars collapse. But the thing is, the countdown is still going on. Now, Carla goes on to say she had a Doctor Strange moment, and I guess we find out something about Carla here with her premonitions, her visions, and she can actually see into the future like Doctor Strange and see multiple possibilities like Doctor Strange saw in Avengers Infinity War. And she gets this whole same thing like Doctor Strange did when he was talking to Iron Man. He's like, yeah, I only saw one possibility where we actually succeed and we stop face. And that is in regards to me sacrificing my life. Now, Wendy then says, I'm not going to let you sacrifice yourself by yourself. I'm going to be right beside you because we're friends. And we've always said I'm going to be together till the very end. And I'm going to die with you. Now, when the explosion goes off, and the thing is, Carlo reverses the ether nano to flow back into face so it can just destroy it. So after the explosions going on, Dornbolt was there in the area and managed to save Carla and Wendy, and Face is gone, and Face is not a problem. Now, obviously, the one thing is this. In my opinion, do you think is this one of the death teases they go through with? Yes, I do understand that, but I'm giving this the benefit of the doubt because Dornbolt was in the area, and of course, I feel like it was a way for Dornbolt to get his redemption on not being able to save Wendy back on Tenro. He does it here. It doesn't irk me as much as later stage so-called scenes where a character is supposed to die, but they don't. Now, do I believe maybe in this arc as a whole, one fairy tale member could have died? I do believe that, this arc this arc is perfect and great as is. I do wish a fairy tale member would have died because especially we know at the end of the arc, we see Makarov disband Fairy Tail, and I feel like it would have made much more sense if a Fairy Tail member died and like we lost one member. I'm disbanding the guild because, obviously the reasons when we get there. But I feel like they could have made Carla maybe sacrifice herself. They could have, but obviously they're not going to kill obviously a XC partner for one of the established Dragon Slayers. But the thing about it is I just don't like the fact that they do the whole build-up scenes of these characters dying, and they go back and do these flashbacks of all the times we recall since the moment they were first introduced or met each other, and you don't end up going through with the sacrifice or the kill-off. That's why I love the Aquarius moment so much. This moment, it doesn't irk me, but it is nitpicky, because why give us the flashbacks of Wendy and Carla when it looks like they're both going to die for a good cause? And Adorable just comes in like, yeah, we're going to totally take that. Again, I figure you're probably going to kill Wendy out because she's an important character and she's a main cast character. But listen, don't do that next time. But what do I know? The series is already done and it happens. So yeah. Now, obviously, the fairy tale members still have their magic. It shocks Tartaros and they're like, shit, face didn't go off like we thought it did, and stuff like that. So Kyoka, she leaves her fight with Earth, and she's like, we got a backup plan, and that's to awaken their master, E&D. This is when Minerva comes in and fights in for her, who Minerva calls herself Neo Minerva, and I was just like, I can't believe you would give into the darkness, and stuff like that. Now, in the fight with Franmove, Natsu and Lucy are in trouble, and when he actually tries to absorb their spirit energy, essentially they think of the things that are most important to them. Taros tries to take Franmove back to the celestial world along with Ares, but Franmove has to force them out to do that. And then when Lucy pretends to say, oh, Natsu, close your gate, it makes freaking Franmove lower his guard, let Natsu free. And then Natsu ends up defeating Franmove by smashing rocks on him because Franmove can't absorb that stuff. Now, this is when we see the spirit of Hades tells Natsu and Lucy that they have to tell Makarov to release the light before it's too late. Now, Mary Jane in her fight with Celia can't be controlled. And when the other demons and their tanks arrive, saying, we want to get out of here and stuff like that, that's when Mary Jane gets the great idea. One, we find out this whole area is called Hell's Core. Essentially, that's when we find out the whole dance of the demons, the 9 demon gates of Tartaros revive, and they can keep coming back over and over and over again. That's when Mary Jane gets the idea to tap into the tank's power and destroy every tank, which means, guess what? That evens the playing field. That means if any Tartaros member dies from this point on, they're dead for good, and stuff like that. Now, Mary Jane uses her Satan Soul Tree, but Celia uses her Limit Release, which is her true form, which is technically her Aetherius form. But she ends up getting the upper hand on Mary Jane and beating the ever-living shit out of her. Now, cutting back to the Sace, Razor actually wonders why the hell they're following Jalal, and Cobra says he's intrigued because he hears voices, and he hears that the voices are like screams. Now, the other Sace members are okay with joining Crime Sorcier, but Razor isn't really, and that's when we see the return of Rusty Rose. You remember Rusty Rose used to be a part of Grimoire Hearts. Now, he says that he's been to Tartaros, and he says that he got attacked by Zareth, and he goes on to tell a story to the Sace members, and even met Melody, who was there, saying that after he got attacked by Zareth, he was really the only one that survived. He's tried to find the other Grimoire Hearts members over the 7 years, but he never could, which is pretty weird that he can never find Ultir and Meridi and Melody. I feel like if he did, he might have been a part of Crime Sorcier, probably. Now, the thing is, the thing is, he goes on to tell his story, the fact that since they were taken down, Tartaros essentially had complete control and a complete power. They started taking out other guilds, dark guilds, and stuff like that. Now, Rusty, Zancro, and Ozma, who we all know Zancro and Ozma, they're not, dead well. Ozma, we know, is, I guess, somewhat dead because he became the Tenro tree again. But as for Zancro, we don't really know where Zancro went. Like, he just got defeated and then we never see him again. So I don't know how the hell happened to Zancro. So yeah, I don't know. I literally don't know. But Rusty went to confront Kyoka and he asked what Tartaros is doing, what they're doing. And essentially he asked her, like, listen, let's create the Barm Alliance again. And you had over some of the guilds you destroyed and stuff like that. Now, Kyoka says no because she says Zareth is coming soon. And on the way to get tortured, Rusty sees somebody in the shadows. And after that, that's it. Now, the Saints tell Jalal, after he leaves, he's gone. Now, the Saints tell Jalal that they won't help him in attacking Tartarus because they're like, we swore that we would never do it, and we still feel like the Saints has, a connection to Tartarus. And I'm just over here thinking, I'm like, why would you believe that, though? If they literally turned down Rusty Rose, a partner member in Grimoire Hearts, what makes you believe that Tartaros would work with you guys? Yeah. Anyways, Jalal's he's like, okay, fine, but I'll be back for you when I'm done doing what I'm doing and stuff like that. Now, Melody asked him, like, why do you seem to care so much about the Saves? And essentially, Jalal says, like, the reason why he cares is because he can understand what they're going through, because they were all in the Tower of Heaven together. And he says, together we can all work together to achieve that freedom and atone for our sins that we did battle the way back then. We also get identified their names even too. So obviously, Hot Eye and Cobra's names are Richard and Eric. Racer's real name is Sawyer, and Midnight's real name is Macbeth, and we find out that Angel's real name is Sorano. And guess what? Well, just like the speculation was, remember, because if you remember from the Grand Magic Games arc, Yukino made a mention that she had an older sister named Sorano when she was talking to Lucy. And there you go. It is revealed right here that Angel is Yukino's sister from the naming scheme alone, which honestly you probably could see coming a mile away because they both have the same color hair and they both wear colors that are legit similar to their design outfits. Yukino wears white with navy blue. Same with Angel. She has white with navy blue. And that's even kind of her hair distinction as well. So, yeah. He says, like, listen, if they work with me, they can all obtain their freedom and do this, and they can fight for a good cause. That's when we see Rusty Rose attack Jalal and Merity, and Melody tells Rusty that he needs to stop living in the past and move on because, Rusty shows these illusions of all the Grimoire Hearts members, and he's telling Melody, listen, we can all live together again. And Melody's like, Rusty, you need to stop living in the past. You still haven't gotten over the past. What happened in the past happened. I've already moved on from my past. You need to do the same. And Rusty's like, well, guess what? If that's not the case, then you're going to die. Jalal tries to fight back, but when it looks like Rusty is going to probably kill him, the Sace come in and attack Rusty. And essentially the Sace is like, okay, we'll work with you, my dude. So, yeah, that's when they join his crusade and join Crime Sorcière. Now, this is when we also, in this whole scene, get introduced to the Underworld King, the last revealed member of the Tartaros Guild. They're quote-unquote, I guess, interim master, and that is Mard Gear. Now, Mard Gear goes in to state that humans are no match for Zerf's almighty Aetherius, and that their darkness will swallow the world's light, talking about their transformed states. Now, this is when we get another emotional moment. Like I said, there's many emotional moments in this freaking arc alone, with also the cool moments. And we get the Mira Jane backstory on how she, Lazan, and Elfman came to enter Fairy Tail. Now, when she was a young age with them, she had this arm that looked like in the form of a demon arm, and everybody thought she was a demon because of it. Now, when she gets kicked out of her own village, they eventually get into Magnolia. They run into Master Makarov at the front door of Fairy Tail. And essentially, Makarov tells her, like, oh, what you doing there is just Team Demon takeover magic. Nothing special. You're not really a demon. You just have the properties of using demon takeover magic and stuff like that. At this point, it's like a month later in the guild. She's kind of like the gloomy type of person that kind of just stays to herself and everything. She thinks that nobody's going to want her welcome in Fairy Tail, and she thinks Lazan and Elfman will be happy and she'll just go on to live on her own. But Lazan and Elfman find her and they're like, listen, and they show her that they can use takeover magic just like her. And they're saying, we wanted to be just like you, sister, so we could all be saying the same. And it's a heartwarming moment between brother and sisters, of this family, the fact that they really do love each other, they really do care about each other. Like, even go back to the Daedalus arc, you clearly see that the Strauss family cares about each other and they love each other. And you could see that with Mary Jane and Elfman, they were devastated when they thought Lizana died, and they were overjoyed when they found out she was still alive, and stuff like that. And it goes to show you that they really do love each other. And these three family members have a bond that's literally unbreakable. And I like the whole scene in the fight where it's like Mary Jane against Celia is like, I'm going to do whatever I can to protect my family as much as, and what she does is to defeat Celia. She's like, well, guess what? By absorbing a little bit of her, essentially what happens is she managed to do the same thing that Celia did to Elfman, and Mary Jane controls her body to take out Celia. And that's when I also love the words Elfman says, a real man always is going to protect his family, his sisters. And like I said, I love the dynamic between the Strauss family because each of them will protect their siblings no matter what, even if it's the cost of their own lives and stuff like that, which again, like I said, goes to show you how much they love each other. And it's a really emotional moment and stuff like that. So yeah. Now, when Kyoga goes to see Mard Gear, she tells him everything that has happened has gone wrong and everything, that they need to summon their master E&D. And Mard Gear is like, no, I don't think we are. You're going to do this. So he kind of ties her up in these thorns and kind of punishes her. He's like, listen, you failed to do this, and you're going to understand what it is. Don't worry. I got a plan that's going to take these guys out in one shot. So we see Warren get in contact with the rest of the guild members, and that's when we have Lucy tell the entire guild what happened about Faith, and then that's when Happy tells Makarov that the spirit of Hades told Makarov to release the light, and Makarov's like, is Hades talking about releasing the Lumen Historia, which is very shocking because we know the Lumen Historia, the Lumen Historia is this big secret Fairy Tail's holding. Now, Mard Gear interrupts this whole telepathy magic thing, and he tells Fairy Tail that they're all doomed and they're going to be dead essentially and soon. He uses this spell called Allegria. And essentially what it does, it consumes everyone in the base of Tartaros, so like this muscle-like fiber type of thing, as well as the fact that the Tartaros Guild Cube as a whole transforms into this monster called the Plutogrim, who we see when the Plutogrim is literally roaring. It's like destroying everything in Magnolia and everything. Now, again, like I said, by using Allegria, it forces everybody into this like state where they're caught and they're essentially incapacitated and they're dead. Now, everyone in the Tartaros Guild members, all the demon gates sense like, wait a second, I feel magic power. And we see that the only person left alive still is Lucy, who's not been absorbed by the Allegria. Now, Mard Gear tells anyone who kills Lucy will get a promotion to something. Now, the one thing I do like the scene is, and like, it's a really crazy coincidence that Lucy was the one Fairy Tail member that was still in there. I find some kind of nice solace about that, because it really is crazy, because it's like the character who was the very first character who was introduced in this series, is the same character that has to save all her friends to do this. So anyways, we see Lummi, Tofuzar, and Jekyll all try to attack Lucy and kill her. But Lucy, at this point in time, she already had summoned Virgo and Loki, and they're and obviously they can't take on the Tartaros demon gates as well. That's when she decides to summon a third gate, and she brings out Aquarius at the same time. Now, eventually, Loki and Virgo essentially end up getting defeated. Now, Aquarius says, listen, we're in a freaking predicament here. She tells Lucy that none of the Zodiac spirits can defeat the demon gates because the demon gates are too strong. Now, the thing, Aquarius says to Lucy, the one thing you can do to save everybody, save your friends, and save the day, if you can call upon the Celestial Spirit King. But there is a catch to it, and the cost is, by doing this, you break one of your Zodiac keys, which in turn breaks the contract made with them. They don't die, it just breaks a contract with the wizard and the spirit made, and stuff like that. Now, we see Lucy being all against it to Kingdom Come. She's like, I don't want this. I'm not going to lose you, Aquarius. But Aquarius makes Lucy realize, listen, Lucy, it's either you die or your friends die. And is me, your friend, is one friend going to save all your friends you've made in your guild? No, it's not. So you need to do it if you're going to save everybody. And Lucy reluctantly does it, even though reluctantly, and doesn't want to do it. She ends up doing it. She calls upon the Celestial Spirit King. Her Aquarius's keys break. Aquarius' contract with Lucy is now gone, and the Celestial Spirit King shows up. He smashes through the Plutogrim, and essentially because of it, it is able to fix everything. And then at the end of that, the Celestial Spirit King confronts Margear. Now, before I end off this video, the sacrifice, the sacrifice Aquarius has, if not for that not-so moment with Ignial at the end of this arc, would probably be the best emotional moment in Fairy Tail. But it's a close second. It's a close second. And like I said, even though I did not like the Eclipse Celestial Spirits arc, I like the fact that they gave Lucy and Aquarius some nice moments at the start and at the end to make a better connection, a better feel. So when, especially in the anime, you're doing all these flashbacks and stuff like that, it hits you so hard that, you don't want Lucy to do this, but she has to do it. And this is what I'm talking about. This is a sacrifice that has meaning behind it. Because it's a sacrifice where it's like, well, you have to do it. Otherwise, guess what? You're going to die. And there's no BS. There's no, oh, you can win me back. No. They do it. Aquarius is gone from Lucy's, keys, stuff, her Zodiac keys grouping. And it's a very emotional moment. And the moment that can break you in this moment is when Aquarius is going back to all the moments reflecting on her time with Lucy. When she looks back at Lucy, she's like, yes, even though you're knowing me all these years and stuff like that, and you got my last damn nerves, at the end of the day, all those moments, I will treasure for the rest of my life, and I had fun. And it was emotional. That's the moment that breaks you. And I definitely can see a lot of people bawling their eyes out, crying. This was a heartfelt moment. Yeah, I was watching this episode just yesterday night. Almost got me to cry because of how freaking emotional this moment is. And yeah, this moment was just heartbreaking, crazy. And yeah, but that's really it for this video, guys. So I'm going to stop it here. Next Monday, we're going to finish out and close out the Tartaros arc with the ending battles and stuff like that, and all the revelations revealed there. And we literally will get to the end of Fairy Tail. Well, the obviously Fairy Tail breaking up by then. But this was only part one, so part two will cover that stuff from the part when the Celestial Spirit King shows up to confront and fight Margear to the end of the arc where Makarov essentially disbands the Fairy Tail Guild. But other than that, I'm gonna get out for guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Put in the comment section your thoughts on the Tartaros arc for this part of the story and things like that. So yeah, and then hit the subscribe button if you want to get more Fairy Tail arc reviews or anything else that I put on the channel. Other than that, guys, I'm gonna get over. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day or night when you're checking out this video. Till then, guys, catch you guys later. Peace.